live in Jerusalem, or have more of a right to live in Jerusalem than, say, someone who's actually born and raised in Jerusalem?
There needs to be an equal right of Jewish refugees to return to the surrounding Muslim country. They wouldn't want to because of the anti-Semitism there, for sure. But in any big shift, like in the India and Pakistan crisis, there was a massive 5 million or something shift of populations at the time. And the populations moved, borders were redrawn. There was an equal population shift from Jewish communities into Israel. That war was not started by Israel. That was started by the surrounding Muslim countries who are not taking responsibility for their own actions.
What are your views on people in Israel itself who say that Israel should withdraw from the West Bank, it should remove the settlements, and it should stay within the 1967 borders?
I think it would be disastrous for Israel to do that. The narrowest part of Israel, I think, is only about 10 miles from the 67 borders. It was surrounding Arab countries started the 1967 war. Israel would be facing extermination. It would be silly to do that. But the UN resolution never called for that anyway. It called for renegotiation, or for negotiations on it towards a settlement, what both sides agree. But that has to be in good faith. And so often good faith is missing.
And what's your view on settlements, Israeli settlements in the West Bank?
Some of them will be removed and some will be part of permanent Israel, probably, in any future deal.
Do you view them as being illegal according to international law?
No. In my opinion, they're not illegal. There are some illegal ones, that's correct. But most of them have been, the land has been bought from Palestinian landowners. Or it's been unregistered land, but not illegal.
Now, under international law, the West Bank is considered to be occupied territory. So there's under international law,
disputed territory.
Even if it was disputed,
okay.
should Israel be placing settlements on this disputed territory? Is that not just going to complicate the matter even more?
They haven't placed any new settlements since 1999. Their only growth has been within the existing settlements. Any additional ones, the Israeli authorities have been removing them. So there hasn't been any new stuff there.
The Palestinians would view this as a colonization project. They say that ultimately Israel wants to annex all of the West Bank and that the settlements are part of that plan.
Israel accepts there will be a two-state solution. They accept that in principle. So that's the Israeli government have stated that. So that's not going to stand up. Israel has stated that. The previous Prime Minister had offered them 95% of the West Bank in a deal that Arafat turned down and started the Intifada instead.
They'll also point to things like, say, water resources in the West Bank. They'll say that basically the water rights of the Palestinians are being taken away and this water has been used by Israeli settlements or by people in Israel itself.
Yeah, I don't.
There couldn't be any security justification for that, could there?
I don't buy that argument. I think there's another side of that. That's probably too complicated to go into just now. But I met somebody from the Water Authority who was over in Dublin and offered to meet with Amnesty and the others, and Amnesty wouldn't meet them. So people are only prepared to look at one side. A lot of these things, it's never simple. And it's important to hear the other side, and often that's not heard.
What is the other side to the water issue?
The other side is that Israel has offered and has worked with the Palestinian Authority to update waterworks, etc. And where there's been joint sources, they've respected that. So there's been I'm no expert on water, don't get me wrong, but I know that from that gentleman.
Another argument that's put forward is that Israel is essentially operating a system that's similar to apartheid in the West Bank, in that you have two separate populations who have different laws governing them. You have some people are allowed to use certain roads and others aren't, and that basically the Palestinians are being treated as second-class citizens.
That wasn't so before the Intifada, for sure. There are something like 19,000 Palestinians working in in Jewish settlements on the West Bank at the moment, and getting gainful employment, being paid higher wages than in surrounding countries. They're very pleased to be there. In Ariel, in the university there in the West Bank, I think there's something like 3,000 Palestinian students in that. Those facts are not looked at all. And the key issues is security. Israel is nearly paranoid about security, but it had every reason to be, because of the abuse of the security in the past. For instance, whenever Israel shows compassion to the Palestinians, it's abused. Example, it's said that some of the Israeli soldiers are quite arrogant, and they can be. And I know if my son was in it, maybe he would be as well. But I remember one instance on the border with Gaza, when this lady was queuing at the border and pregnant, and she was 300 or 400 metres back down the queue, and one Israeli soldier saw it, went down and said, would she like to come up front? And he brought her up to the border post to process her documents and put her sitting down, and she blew him up on herself. When compassion was extended, it was abused. And when that guy's colleagues and see this, I'm not excusing arrogance or trying to keep people in areas at a distance, but when compassion is abused, you tend not to do it too much.
Now, if there's no prospect in the medium term or short term of a peace deal, what you're looking at is a long-term situation in the West Bank where you do have two different groups of people who are being ruled by different laws and who have different rights. Is the settlers, for example, can vote in Israeli elections, whereas the Palestinians can't. So does that not seem like an apartheid-like situation?
Well, Palestinian citizens in Israel can vote, for sure. And Palestinians on the West Bank can vote for the PLO and obviously voted for Hamas recently. So if the Palestinian Authority genuinely wants peace, and there's going to be elections soon, so it depends on who will emerge, and will Hamas emerge on the West Bank and all that. But I think there's not going to be peace there until the surrounding countries who are funding Hamas and funding terrorism, until they recognise the right of Israel to exist. And I would love to see the EU and the Irish government putting pressure on Iran on the genocide. The threat of genocide is a UN war crime. Why isn't the Irish Palestinian Solidarity campaigning to bring Abinadab before the UN for this crime of genocide? He's upfront about it. They're doing nothing. Why isn't the Palestinian Solidarity campaigning for the 20,000 Palestinians who've been murdered in Syria? You know, the surrounding countries, incredible abuses are going on, but the Palestinian Solidarity Committee have nothing to say on this, and the total focus is on the one democracy in the whole of the Middle East, which is Israel, where NGOs can campaign against Israel within Israel and not be prosecuted. If they dare do that in Jordan, in Gaza, or in Syria, they'd be kicked out.
Are Egypt and Lebanon and Turkey not democracies as well?
Well, it remains to be seen in Egypt, where now that the Muslim Brotherhood has got in with